thank you for watching my channel today. My name's Sarah and my channel is called Your True Shelf. Today I'm filming a very late October wrap up. I have been having a little bit of a nightmare with my reading. It's all going a bit wrong. It was fine, I think, from memory in October, but I'm just finding it like a bit stressful at the moment, and I hate it when something that is supposed to be fun becomes stressful because of different deadlines and stuff. Which is just, yeah, I know there's bigger things going on than reading troubles, but when you have like deadlines for different things being due back or book clubs and different stuff like that, then it can become a bit stressful. And so I haven't recorded my wrap up yet. Everything's just been very busy. So let's kick off with the books that I read in October. So the first one was one I bought when I was on holiday. And this is The Summer I Turned Pretty by Jenny Han. The reason I bought this was because there is a series on Prime, and I saw someone talk about the series. It's like a teen kind of romance series, which I love, that kind of thing. And then I saw it was like based on the books. It's by the same author of the To All the Boys I Loved Before books. And I loved the TV series so much. And so I was watching it when I was in St Ives, and this is set like at the beach. So it felt like really apt that I was watching it there. And then I bought the book in the independent bookshop in St Ives as well. So it all kind of felt very like, you know, there's a theme. And then I wanted to read it quite quickly while it was still summer. So this is basically a book about three characters. So we have two pairs of siblings. We have Belly and Stephen. Their mum is not very wealthy, and then they have this other family who the mum's best friends with. So the boys are Jeremiah and Conrad, and they own this really gorgeous beach house. And every summer since forever, the two families would go to the beach house together, and the kids have all grown up together. And basically Belly has always had a thing for Conrad, who's the oldest brother. He's a bit of one of those kind of broody, mean, bad boy types. And then basically Jeremiah, the other brother, has always had a thing for Belly, and so it's kind of this love triangle between Belly and the two brothers. And also going on at the same time is that Conrad and Jeremiah's mum has breast cancer and it's not curable, and so they're kind of going through that whole thing as well as trying to enjoy their summer. And so I've watched series 2 is also out on Prime, which I've watched and is really good as well. And so I need to get the other books in the series, but I want to get the matching covers. So this is like the Prime edition cover. So I want to get like book 2 in the same set of covers. I really like, it's got like you can't really see, but it's got like a sort of fluorescent corally kind of colour, which is quite pretty as the spine. So I want to get matching, obviously. So anyway, I really enjoyed this. It isn't like going to blow your socks off in terms of like literary fiction, obviously. But I just love that kind of nostalgic teen kind of stuff, and I loved how I could picture all the characters so well because I've watched the TV show, and yeah, so really enjoyed this one. The next one was an audiobook which I bought a while ago on Audible, and it was the time of year to read it, and that was The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches by Sangu Mondana. So I'd heard a bit about this one on booktube and decided to give it a go. So to start with, I wasn't that enamoured with it, but it grew on me with time. It's about a witch called Mika Moon, and she is in a society, like in a group for other witches, and nobody in their real lives knows that they're witches. It has to all be kept secret. And Mika has a YouTube channel where she is a witch, but she's obviously pretending to be a witch. And anyway, so one day this guy reaches out to her and says that he wants to meet up with her because he has 3 sort of foster witches who are young, and they need someone who knows what they're doing to look after them. And so she goes to this place called Nowhere House, where there's basically a group of adults who are looking after these 3 girls who are young witches who are a little bit out of control. And she goes there, so there's like a gay couple who are older who are like looking after the girls, as well as a housekeeper, as well as a librarian, and the librarian's kind of hot, and him and Mika like each other, but there's all these like things, you know, like about the girls, and what if they get found out, and what if the girls, like, if they take the girls out and they start accidentally casting spells, and there's all this kind of like cozy witchy stuff going on, as well as romance. And I quite enjoyed it. Again, it wasn't like amazing wow, but I liked the romance. The romance was the bit that kept it going for me. And so yeah, that was another pretty good book. The next one was much more serious. The next one that I read was Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies by Maddie Mortimer, which was our book club pick for last month. This is a book where I'm going to link in the description box down below. My friend Karen at Roving Reader did an amazing review of this book, and this isn't going to come close to what she did. So I'm going to link her review in the description box so you can watch it in more depth if you're interested in this book. But we are following a woman who is in her early 40s called Leah, who has metastatic breast cancer. She has a daughter who is called Iris, who's about 13, 14, I think. And she has a husband. And the book is, I listened to this book, but when I saw the book when other people read it at book club, it's got very experimental structure. So it's got bits where the words are kind of like sort of drifting down the page, or bits where there's like spiral text, or bits where the words are sort of very dotted around the page, as well as like normal bits of text as well. And when you listen to the book, there are 2 different narrators. So one is the voice, which is their cancer that's in Leah's body, which is narrating part of the story, and the other is Leah's voice. And we go back and forward in time between her current sort of job and being a mum and having a teenage daughter, to also back to when she was a kid. And there was she grew up in a very religious household. Her dad was a vicar, her mum was extremely religious. They were really strict, they didn't have a good close relationship. And there's a young man who comes and lives with the family who also wants to be a priest when she is in her very early teens, and this becomes a kind of a devastating relationship for her throughout her life. And so it's back and forth in time between then and now. And what it's like for her to be dying of cancer, basically, as well as trying to live a normal life, as well as thinking about her past and her relationships and stuff. It was a really amazing book. I was really in awe. The author was quite young. Her mum died of cancer when she was young, and she's used her experiences and her mum's journals as the basis for writing this book. It wasn't for everybody at book club. I think it was because it's quite experimental in style. I feel like a lot of people didn't gel with that so much. I thought it was just what they managed to achieve was incredible, and there wasn't really any medical professionals in the book, so it very much sort of dealt with the illness from their perspective, without any kind of discussion of people coming into their lives, really. And I liked that, because I, at work, am the person who dips in and out of people's lives when they're going through those kinds of things. And so it was really interesting to read from Leah's perspective of all the things they were kind of dealing with that we just get glimpses of when we go into people's lives and visit them for end of life care and stuff. So yeah, it was a really wonderful book. It's quite heavy. It wasn't, I think you'd have to be very careful about the timing of when you read it, if you've had or you have got something like that going on in your life. But it wasn't, I wasn't sitting there crying my eyes out for the book. So it wasn't like overly sad on purpose, if you see what I mean. But it was very moving, very emotional. And I thought that was a really, really, really great book. I gave that one 5 stars. The next book was another more light-hearted book, and it was called Small Joys by Elvin James Mensah. This is a book that I heard Charlie Brick talk about, and she really, really loved it, so I borrowed it from the library. It was a really joyful book. It's a book mainly about friendship and mental health. And so we're following our main character. His name escapes me. I can't remember what his name was. So we're following our main character who has left university because he couldn't cope with the university because of his anxiety. He's a gay young man, and his father is very much like not approving of him. He's from, I can't remember which country. His dad is from Africa. I can't remember which African country he's from. And he is very like, thinks it's very wrong to be gay. He thinks that he can have like prayer groups and stuff, and they can carry out sort of rituals and get rid of the gayness from his son. And so they have this really difficult relationship. His mum died when he was being born, so he's never had a mum in his life. His dad's raised him, so there's this very difficult relationship there, and he doesn't really have anyone he can turn to. And he moves in with a friend in London and just gets like a job at the local cinema. And so there's a group of people who are living there, and there's a girl called Chelsea whose place it is, and then there's another guy called Maddie, and Maddie is this guy from Manchester who's got the warmest heart and the kindest personality in a book, and he's also like really funny, and he really takes our main character under his wing and looks after him, and they form this really lovely friendship. So there's a group of like 2 girls, 2 guys, and our main character, and they really look after each other. There's some quite serious sort of mental health stuff discussed. There's a lot about anxiety, there's self-harm, there's attempted suicide, but it's all about how if you have the right people in your life who can support you, how much of a massive difference that makes. And yeah, it was just like a kind of a journey of self-discovery, of love and friendship. And Maddie is like such a lovely character that will always kind of stick in my mind. And the other thing, he really loves sort of 90s Britpop type music, and I think it's set a lot, there's loads of music mentioned in this book, and I love it when that happens, because I love like pop culture references in books. So they'll like get in the car and he'll be like, oh, he's playing like Oasis, or he's playing like I don't know, I can't remember all of the songs that were in there, but I ended up making them into a Spotify playlist while I was listening to the book, because I just really, really love when they reference specific songs, and I can kind of picture the scene a bit more and stuff. And Muddy's also really into bird watching, so there's stuff about like nature and how nature helps mental health and stuff as well. And yeah, it's a really, really good book. It's really lovely and uplifting, and I'd really recommend it for that reason. I had another book with joy in the title following that. So I had The Book of Joy by I want to say Douglas Abrams. I'll put a correction if that's wrong. And it's about the Dalai Lama and Desmond Tutu. When they met a few years ago now, they had what they knew would be their final face-to-face meeting, because Desmond Tutu, who's now died, was quite poorly with prostate cancer, and they basically got together to talk about joy in this sort of few days conference, and they had questions which were led by the author of the book, and it was a real joy to read this book. I started off reading it from the library, and then I ended up buying it on Audible because I wanted to be able to refer back to it, and I really liked listening to it. Actually, I really liked it wasn't them that actually read their parts out loud, but it was people who were from the same place as them, that had the same accents as them, and so you felt like it was them reading out their parts. And they had such a great sense of humour, both of them. They were very humble. There was so many life lessons. They've both been through a lot, like Desmond Tutu from all like apartheid in South Africa that he's lived through, and the Dalai Lama obviously being a Tibetan refugee. And they've been through a tremendous amount of difficulty and suffering in their lives, and they talk about how they've transformed that and how they use it to help other people. They talk so much about compassion and love and connection, and they really sort of talked about the fact that they're from two completely different religions, yet they did have some differences, but about what they think, but they overall arching principles of what they believe is the same. And they talked a lot, which is obviously very relevant in today's society, about not looking for divisions all the time, looking for ways to unite people, looking for compassion for other people's situations, or finding like common ground and like connection between people rather than dividing people, which our world seems to be obsessed with, dividing people, which is never going to bring us together. And but it also just talked about how you can do that with humour, and they really emphasised how much humour was important in life, and not taking everything so seriously. And yeah, I just thought it was a really wonderful book. And at the end, there's some meditation exercises as well, which I've been like listening to separately, because obviously you don't want to listen to all of them in a row. You want to do one exercise at a time. Yeah, I really recommend. I think anybody could get something from that book. It's not a book which focuses on religion. So, yeah, I thought it was wonderful. And it's also very much about friendship, because they're great friends. So that was lovely. And then the final book that I read, which did take me quite a long time, was Far from the Madden Crowd by Thomas Hardy. So I buddy read this with Joe. I had this on my TBR since 2016, according to the front of the book. This was a really great book, and so we are following Bathsheba Everdeen, who is a woman who has inherited a farm from her uncle, and she has 3 different suitors. So one of them is Gabriel, who is a shepherd and then bailiff on her farm. There is Troy, who is a soldier who is very untrustworthy and charming. And then there is the guy, oh my goodness, what's his name? Baldwood, who is a eccentric, kind of reclusive, wealthy farmer in a neighbouring farm. So there's this kind of, all of these guys are vying for Bathsheba's attention. She's not really interested in any of them, or getting married or settling down. And she sends this Valentine's card to one of them as a joke, and it unfolds this like really massive consequence as a result of that. And it's basically the story of her life, what her choices are, what the implications of her choices are. The nature writing is very beautiful, as is always with Thomas Hardy. I think this is my second Hardy. I read Tess of the D'Urbervilles last year. Tess had the edge on this one for me. I found Tess easier to read. There were definitely bits in this book where both Joe and I had to read some paragraphs or pages a couple of times, and we were still a little bit lost in some of the descriptions and stuff that he was doing. But overall, this was so it was a kind of a slow beginning, then it really sped up, and by the end it was like action. And I think this one I'd probably give a 4.5, because Tess was a 5 and this one wasn't as good as Tess, but it was still a really, really brilliant book. And I read this in October for Victober. And Joe and I both really like Thomas Hardy, and we'd like to read all of his books. So if you have any suggestions what we should read next, then let me know. Yes, that was the final book that I read. So I had some quite chunky books. I had some really easy, light-hearted books, like The Summer I Turned Pretty and The Very Secret Society of Irregular Witches. And then I had the Maps of Spectacular Bodies, The Book of Joy, and Far from the Madden Crowd, which were much more sort of bigger project books. So yeah, I think I did okay in the end. Let me know what you read in October, or what you're reading at the moment, seeing as it's already halfway through November. This month I've only finished 1 book. Can you believe that's crazy? Because I have so many books on the go. When I finish them all, I'll have probably a normal amount read this month, but it's just going back and forward and multi-reading and everything is a bit stressful, like I said at the beginning. But anyhow, I'll be back soon with another video. I hope you have let's try that again. I'll be back soon with another video, and I hope you have a lovely week. Bye.